Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. I hope all of you are having a wonderful day. As you know, we get started here. We have a great guest joining us here in just a few minutes, and lots and lots of computer and technology news later on in the program that we should definitely cover. And I know you've all been wondering, and this is going to be one of our top stories today. What's the deal with WPA3? What's the deal with that Wi-Fi standard for security measures? And don't worry, we have an article today outlining the improvements to security and everything WPA3 means. So I know that was burning a hole in your pocket, just taking up all of your free mental fortitude. And don't worry, we have that and more, actually interesting things. But no, computer and technology news later on in the program. And before we get to our guest, and by the way, our guest today is 33rd Parallel. They'll be joining us. We have the co-founder here with us as we talk all about their products and, actually taking technology into the great outdoors, something that, we don't do often enough, which is, taking indoor stuff, taking it outside. So, but before that, a couple things to mention, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything from the show notes, which has a link to our guest website. You can also find any articles that we do, any videos that we watch, just anything and everything. You can find it at computeramerica.com. While you're there, check out the contest. Every single Friday, we give away a prize from Logitech. Very happy to work with those folks over there. And also be sure to check out the live video stream, where we are still a radio program. Make no mistake about it, but we do offer a video portion. Check it out if you get a minute. So I think with all that, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into our interview. So joining us is the one, the only, Mr. Derek Smith. He is the co-founder of 33rd Parallel, and he's going to be here to tell us all about how they got started, what they do, and how they do it. So Derek, thank you for coming on Computer America.
Thanks for having me. We're excited to be on the show.
Our pleasure, and yeah, coming in loud and clear. So as I say with all of our guests, I think the best place to start will be the beginning. And tell us about the background of 33rd Parallel. How'd you get involved with this? And what's your background that kind of led you to this space?
Sure. So my co-founder and I started a company called 33rd Parallel, and we're focused on bringing to market a lighting system that we call PAL, which stands for Portable Adaptive Lighting. And it's a new and innovative modular lighting system. Essentially, you can attach and detach a central magnetic light pod, if you would, to a variety of accessories: flashlight handles, headlamp straps, bike mounts, lanterns, task lights, all with the idea of providing reliable personal lighting in a variety of different circumstances. So, we named it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I believe you were just about to get into kind of, how you came up with the name, because, I guess lighting, for those of us who don't spend a lot of time outside, it's, kind of taken for granted, but, you're about to get into how you named the product, but also, was this something of a personal project that you found yourself in, or was it something people have been asking for? What were some of the influences when you came up with this?
Yeah, sure. So, the company name, first to address it, we're based in Dallas, which is loosely located on the 33rd Parallel North. So it's sort of an homage to our hometown. But yeah, in terms of coming up with the idea, my background is in the LED industry, specifically in sales, marketing, and product development. And so, I teamed up with my business partner because we're basically consumers of this product. We were really tired of just owning and maintaining a lot of these personal lighting products. We had drawers full of products that all ran off different battery types and sizes, and really we were just frustrated. And so we decided to create sort of a solution that not only fixed the problems associated with battery management, but also provided a streamlined solution that was customizable.
Yeah, customizable is certainly the best word because for everyone out there watching the video portion, we have your website up, and definitely like the little animation you have where it's essentially the central lighting unit that's being swapped in and out of a bunch of different attachments. So pretty good idea. So let's talk about how you came up with the design for this thing, because I think a lot of people out there, they think of flashlights, and the flashlight itself hasn't changed in 50 years, whenever the first flashlight came out. And a lot of other, kind of lighting solutions, you think lanterns, you think flashlights, they haven't really changed. It seems like you've really tried to distill the essence of what a flashlight is, which is, that light emitting, kind of puck. And you've tried to wrap it in as many different ways as you possibly can. Talk about some of your thinking in developing these different attachments.
Yeah, I mean, we had to start somewhere, right? And so from our perspective, we're sort of outdoors guys. So we geared the initial accessories towards not only the biggest markets and the most relevant markets, but the outdoor active lifestyle market specifically is a really good entry point. There's a lot of innovation in lighting nowadays. I mean, you see performance being improved, battery life, new technologies sort of being introduced. But a lot of the manufacturers build one product. They'll build a flashlight, they'll build a headlamp, maybe they build a headlamp and a lantern. There's no one really playing across all of these different verticals to really provide that streamlined solution. And so that's really what we're trying to get at. And in terms of our design, we wanted to approach it and make it as easy to use as possible. While it's geared towards the outdoor market or the active lifestyle, these products, flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, I mean, there's most households have some combination of those devices just readily available. And so our goal was to sort of create this device that was simple, intuitive, easy to use, and make it as relevant as possible. Right. And so we feel like we've done that. We've teamed with some really great guys, in terms of product design and mechanical and electrical engineering, and have really come up with this unique solution for that modularity.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that, and just being able to swap it from one to the next, it doesn't look like it would take much more than a twist here, a press there. Seems like the connection method for everyone out there listening to the radio. Could you describe, kind of what the actual light product kind of looks like, the dimensions of it, and then talk about the connection method, because I think that seems to be a pretty different part of this product.
Right. So, size was an issue right out of the gate for us. How to make it as small of a light as possible that was as high performing as possible. So in the end, the final design is 2 inches by 2 inches by 1.2 inches. So the actual PAL or light pod itself is really compact. On a high setting, it puts out 350 lumens. It's got a high, medium, and low. Flood and spot. It's got 3 white Cree XPL LEDs on it, so it's a really high performing, really compact light. But the modularity is really what separates us. So we've got this connection. In order to connect the PAL to the suite of accessories, it's a simple magnetic connection. So there's a male and a female portion, and really you just hold the PAL up to the accessory and it turns it 90 degrees and rotates it into place. And so it's got a 1-part magnetic connection, and then it mechanically locks with a locking arm and detent sort of system. So it's a really sturdy magnetic mechanical connection, but we took it a step further and we added an electrical connection element. So we have this patented feature called power coupling, which is which allows PAL to harness the power from battery-enabled accessories. So for instance, our flashlight handle has a battery equipped inside of it. So when you connect PAL to the flashlight handle, it's actually recharging PAL. It's providing 2x the runtime as well as a fourth brightness setting. So you're really maximizing the performance by coupling it with this battery-enabled or power-coupled accessory.
So some of these attachments that you have, they actually have functionality in themselves. It's not like you just said, here's a mass-produced cheap plastic handle for a flashlight. You've actually taken a step further and thought that the attachments can be just as just as techy as the rest of it.
Right, right. Some of the accessories are very simple, in terms of their complexity and design. It's designed to be simple. For instance, the bike mount, it's just a plastic injection molded part. Whereas other power coupled accessories have really been thought out to really enhance the system. So the flashlight handle not only doubles, the lifetime of the PAL and provides this fourth brightness setting, it also has a USB cable, USB port for outbound charging. So you can charge devices on the go and really keep power to not just your light, but your devices.
So talk about some of the different, applications for this, because, we see a GIF here, someone's strapping it on their head, someone's strapping it to a bike. What were some of the most important ones to you, and which ones, and we'll talk about your experience, kind of doing this through a Kickstarter, but what were some of the important ones to you, and then which were some that your audience kind of said, I'd really appreciate it if it did X?
Yeah, so from our perspective, I mean, we're coming to market with a few initial accessories. So we'll have a wall-mounted charger, so that you can actually keep the PAL directly on the wall socket on the wall-mounted charger. The flashlight handle, the headlamp, and the bike mount. Those are the most synergistic accessories from an outdoor lifestyle probably perspective. From a sort of demand perspective, we see the need for a lantern and a task light to be added to the product mix, to really round out that synergy. We do have both of those products designed and coming out, sometime in the near future. But it really goes back to what our brand is, and it's sort of this urban wild mentality where we wanted a product to be really useful and reliable in the field, but equally important in your everyday life. And so we've approached the product design perspective from what is the most intuitive and most regularly owned common household lights, that people would benefit from the modularity from.
Gotcha. So talk about, some of the, and I believe you already threw a couple of these stats out there, but just from a, just kind of a user interface. I mean, how does it charge? How long does the battery last? Is it waterproof, dustproof, shock resistant? Talk about some of, because if you are making this for, someone who will take this hiking, sometimes things do get dropped. Sometimes things do get hit with rocks. How sturdy is this?
Sure, sure. So, the PAL itself has two methods for charging. As I mentioned earlier, the connection between PAL and an accessory has an electrical component to it. So there's two electrical contacts. You can actually charge it directly on the wall, so it's always charged, always ready to be used. But it also has a waterproof micro USB on the back, so you can charge it on the go or in your car or from another, battery source. It's designed to be IPX6, so it can take a pretty good beating, in terms of it will be really water resistant. We tell people it's not designed to go scuba diving with, but it will take a quick dunk. It will work in the rain or in really sort of damp conditions. And it is really built to be an outdoor light. So it's robust, it's compact, it can take a drop. But that's a lot of what we're going to be doing over the next 6 or 8 months is going through a lot of validation testing with our manufacturing partner, so that not only do we get the certifications, but the product is as robust and you know um, reliable and durable as possible.
Right. So, and we have a question here. It's speaking to the production and development of this product and what challenges you face. If you could roll that question in with any experiences you felt by going through crowdfunding, because we get a lot of companies on here that do crowdfunding. Uh, the actual getting the money part is just part of it, and the other part is kind of doing an extended Q&A with an audience, with people who actually believe in you, and kind of tweaking your product along the course of it. Talk about the challenges you had in developing this, and talk about your experiences using Kickstarter.
Yeah, Kickstarter was great. I mean, it was really 30 days of craziness, but we were successful, and we were happy that we were successful. We did get some feedback from the community, about suggestions for, tweaks to the product. For instance, a third strap on the headlamp going over the top of the head. It's a really stylized sort of difference, and splitting hairs in terms of which customers like which design. So we're considering a few different options as a result of the feedback that we've received on Kickstarter. So we're excited about going through this whole process. We feel like the design has been optimized. We've been working on it for about a year and a half now, with designers out in the Bay Area with backgrounds from IDEO and Apple and Samsung and Tesla. So some really incredible designers, and we really feel like our current design has been optimized, but we're going to find out through this next process what tweaks probably will come out of like this whole process.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the only thing that I could probably think of here would be, some kind of option. Either you mentioned the handle, but not everyone would probably want to go get a second handle. But do you already have an attachment? And if you don't, maybe in the future, that's simply just for charging things. Like you charge up, a larger battery, and it wouldn't have a light, wouldn't have anything for it, but it would just be, because you said the batteries were built in, you couldn't replace or swap the batteries out, but just another unit that would just be there to charge, the POW.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of the system, honestly, is the modularity. I think, PAL is really the hero of the product line, but the modularity allows for, you know, expandability in terms of the product ecosystem. So we can add products, very simple products to just help provide access to lighting in new conditions, or very complex accessories that provide specific functions to improve the overall user experience. So it's part of the beauty of this modularity that we've really been working on developing and patenting.
For sure. So talk about when people are finally going to be able to get to see it, and where where you're thinking people might be able to get it. Obviously, on your website, online, maybe big box stores. Maybe just tell us what you're thinking, and then also the price. How much does all of this cost?
Sure, sure. So I'd expect our current plan is to release later this summer. So we plan to be going through several rounds of prototyping, just again, as I said, to do all of the validation testing. And that takes some time, and setting up the tooling and the manufacturing lines. So later this summer, we should have product that's ready to sell. We're currently lining up retailers and a few distribution partners to help bring our product to market. We're focusing on smaller independent retail organizations out of the gate. But who knows where it will take us. We're just now coming to market. So that's the intention. The MSRP for the base system is around $100, and that includes PAL plus the wall-mounted charger. And then the accessory costs are relatively low, depending on the accessory, of course. But really what that does is when you look at it in terms of a total suite of accessories and the total cost of ownership, it ends up being, substantially lower than just purchasing multiple different products from multiple different manufacturers.
Right. And not making any promises, but Computer America has been friends with Brookstone for a while, and I could definitely see something like this in, let's say, a Brookstone setting, or
Sure.
some kind of specialty store. That would be really really cool to see. So with so with all this, and you said that you're going to be going through a couple of months of prototyping, but I mean even beyond that, where are you hoping that all this grows? Do you see yourself making, I don't know, a full lineup? Because lights are just one part of it. Do you see yourself sticking to the PAL and really developing that, or I'm sorry, does 33rd Parallel have bigger aspirations?
I think right out of the gate, we're hyper focused on coming to market, right? I mean, we really want to come in and make a splash and really help pioneer this modular lighting category. Um, and so for the short term, we see different iterations or versions of PAL coming out with greater capabilities. Eventually, we do see the modular connection leading to potential new markets, new verticals, and really new applications. But right now, I mean, we are living the struggle of coming to market with the best possible modular lighting products as possible.
No, makes perfect sense. But I will say that this is one of the first times we've seen a lot of different kinds of LEDs, and everyone always comes on saying that, hey, check us out. We have the brightest LED, we have the smallest LED, we have this way or the other. And I think yours, though, one of the first times I've seen it where it's trying to be, kind of an all-in-one accessory for, like you said, people who want to get outdoors, and they don't want to buy 15 different kinds of light, just one light that can go from one to the next. Seems very, very cool. And so, Derek, I'll of course let you have the last word. But if people want to find out more or anything else, where can they go?
Yeah, so right now we're in the process of setting up our e-commerce website so that product will be available directly on our website. And then we're also in the process of setting up an Indiegogo in demand account. So our Kickstarter page would actually, divert the visitor to the Indiegogo on demand page. So both of those are sort of interim solutions until we come to market, and then hopefully it's a retailer in your neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and everyone, one more time, Mr. Derek Smith. He is the co-founder of 33rd Parallel. And Derek, unless we missed anything, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Great product, looks great, and yeah, thanks for coming on Computer America.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Had a great time talking to you guys.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So until next time, Derek, and we'll be sure to follow up. But until next time, good luck, man.
Hey, thanks so much, Ben.
Our
Good
pleasure,
talking to
pleasure.
you.
All right, have a good one. Bye bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, and there he goes. Interview brought to you by Skype. So, yeah, there he goes. And again, we have a link to this in the show notes at computeramerica.com. You could check that out anytime. Stays on the front page, for about 2 weeks. Yep, so you can check that out and feel free to. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and, yeah, we have plenty of time to get started with computer and technology news. And that's brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. So here we go. Computer and technology news. All right. And I think we'll lead off with the ever so interesting and, something, or, I kind of led off the show with it. But I joke, it's not very sexy, it's not glamorous, but it is something that I think our audience is going to run up into one way or the other. And, kind of like the fanfare that we gave HDMI 2.1, we're going to give to Wi-Fi and WPA3, which is a security standard for all Wi-Fi devices. And, it was a slow adoption from WPA to WPA2. It's not hard to find devices that are still on WPA, But yeah, we have a new one, WPA3. And we should start seeing it here in the next couple of months, if not next couple of years. So, why don't we get started with, and by the way, this coming from Motherboard, Mr. Lucian Constantine. And yeah, after more than a decade, Wi-Fi security finally gets a major update where WPA3 promises better authentication, stronger encryption, and protection for open networks. That one is probably going to be huge. Open networks, you can find them all over the place, and the amount of snooping and spying and compromising that happens on open networks, that's one of the most basic security-minded tips that we get, which is, hey, don't connect to open networks. They can be snooped, they can compromise your system, and open Wi-Fi networks are just a treasure trove of, bad guys. So, yeah, here we go. Saying that Wi-Fi protected access 2, commonly known as WPA2, has been the standard for securing wireless networks for over a decade, but cracks are starting to show. And, the one crack that we just talked about the other, 2 months ago, it's hard because there's so many security flaws happening so fast, but there was that flaw with WPA2, and I don't recall the exact name of it, but essentially it was useless. They found a way to snoop certain kinds of packets and just circumvent WPA2 on Wi-Fi emitting devices. So Wi-Fi receiving devices, such as your iPhone, such as any smartphone, any webcam or security camera, those were fine. But a lot of routers, things like that, those were vulnerable to letting ne'er-do-wells have access to it. So the cracks were starting to show indeed. And oh, by the way, it was called Crack, Krack. That was one of the bigger ones that happened just not too long ago. So the industry is now getting ready for its successor, and we might see it in new devices this year. So WPA3 will simplify Wi-Fi configuration while providing improved security and data encryption. And this was announced by the Wi-Fi Alliance, a standard organization whose members include Apple, Microsoft, Intel, Samsung, Cisco, and other major tech companies. And one notable feature of the new standard is that it will protect Wi-Fi connections even when users choose a weak password that falls short of typical complexity recommendations. And this means that it will likely include defense against brute force dictionary-based attacks, which is one of the most common methods for breaking into wireless networks. Brute force dictionary type attacks, you can think of that as it starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And it works up from there. And it uses a huge list that has been curated over years that they find are, the top 5% most passable, most used passwords. And, football one, baseball one, password, because, it's fun saying the password is password. Or it's a secret. It takes all the most common passwords that we all use or we shouldn't use, and it tries them each individually over and over and over again until maybe it cracks it. And then it starts to get into different levels of variation, and well, at that point, it is what it is. But essentially, it will provide protection against one of the most common ways that connected devices are compromised. So there aren't any technical details available for WPA3 because the technical specifications haven't been published yet. However, they did have a researcher from the University of Leuven believes that the brute force protection in WPA3 will be achieved by switching to a new key exchange protocol called simultaneous authentication of equals. And they said that a few months ago, Van Hoff found, music means we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll talk about WPA2, what was wrong with it, what was up with Crack, and, hey, what we can expect from, this new Wi-Fi standard. It's Again, not the most attractive story we have, but I think it's going to be one of the most important. So everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America right after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on with the program, and I think we should get back into the story. If you're just joining us, welcome into the show. Happy that you could join us here on Computer America. We have the entire show available, of course, live through IRN, but then you can find us, you can find the show in podcast form, which is just the show in its entirety, available through places such as the Google Play Store, iTunes, wherever podcasts are heard, iHeartRadio, of course. Wherever podcasts are heard, you can find us there as well. Very, very simple. So, first segment, we had a great interview with 33rd Parallel. They make a light that is super interchangeable, super customizable, and great for outdoor uses. And now we're doing computer and technology news where, we try to break down what the WPA3 standard means and what it means for you, because I know that a lot of people listen to our show, and not everyone, but a lot of people are security professionals. And this article was just published today, but this is something that you're probably going to be seeing here in the next couple of, probably by the end of the year, and that's just in brand new devices. And then you're going to have even newer devices next year starting to have this. And I'm sure that, routers could probably be patched with this, but undoubtedly, if you don't have it, then the router afterwards will come decked out with WPA3. So they said that a few months ago, Van Hoof found a serious weakness in the four-way handshake of the WPA2 protocol, which is used by clients who know a Wi-Fi network's pre-shared key to negotiate an encryption key with the access point. And there are patches to mitigate the attack, but it wouldn't be surprising if the Wi-Fi Alliance opted for a more robust key exchange mechanism in WPA2's successor. So essentially, this new standard, they're hoping, because it was found by a security researcher, they know exactly how it works, and they're going to make darn sure that crack will not be happening to the new Wi-Fi. So let's go into this, saying that WPA3 is also expected to encrypt connections on open Wi-Fi networks, which until now offer no protection and privacy to users, where according to Van Hoof, this might be achieved through a mechanism called opportunistic wireless encryption. And, that would be huge, because they're right. Up until now, if you connect to an open network and any other traffic on that open network, if you shared a device on that network, so, it makes perfect sense, and it's completely fine for, let's say, a home network, where if it was an open network and all of your devices readily talked with it, then, everything else on the open network could communicate with one another, no problem there. But if it's like a Starbucks or an airport or, places with lots of through traffic, it was a haven for people looking for unprotected devices. and trying to either install malware or get other kind of information pulling down from that data stream. And it looks like, well, they're going to try to protect against it coming up. So to get into that word, opportunistic encryption, they said does not provide the same level of security and assurance as authenticated encryption, but is generally viewed as a better option than having no encryption at all. So not the best, and it's not going to stop everything, but it's going to make it's probably going to make doing the work of taking advantage of open networks a little bit more difficult, and hopefully less attractive a way to perpetrate these kinds of crimes. So finally, WPA3 will include a 192-bit security option that's aligned with the U.S. Commercial National System National Security Algorithm suite required for government and defense use. So I guess the government and defense had their own standard of security that WPA2 just didn't meet. So probably just trying to up the security standards across the board and bring them up to, hey, maybe even the highest security standards. Awesome to see. So the Wi-Fi Alliance will continue to improve WPA2, which is not going away anytime soon. But the organization will make WPA3 a requirement of its certification program later this year, so all new devices that want to have a Wi-Fi certified mark will include support, which is something that we saw with WPA. It's still an option. It's still an option that you can choose, and a lot of devices have it, but hey, WPA2 is also an option. You pick that one. And it sounds like WPA3 is going to be the same way. Not required, and WPA2 not going anywhere. But if you want better security, hey, it's going to be there if you so choose. So very, very cool to see. All right, so there's that story. And I think we're going to go ahead and move on into the next one. And let's see. All right. How about we talk about one of the biggest stories that hit last week? And that was or was that even at the beginning of this week? Spectre and Meltdown. That was the other one. Actually, I take it back. It was definitely last week. So Spectre and Meltdown. If you haven't heard about it, yeah, it's a pretty big deal for Intel and their processors. So Intel reveals possible slowdowns from the Meltdown processor fix. And like we were thinking before, heavy applications mean more significant slowdowns. So just right out of the gate, Meltdown, Spectre, it was a security flaw that they found where by trying to pre-queue processes, before they even happened, they tried to kind of queue them up and then feed them in even faster, and it led to a pretty big increase in performance. But the queuing up, before anything was even run through the processor, it accessed data that was normally protected by the operating system from being accessed. But someone somewhere down the line could eventually put in a program that would be able to snoop in on all the data that goes into that preloading, kind of process. And yeah, you could read data from a system that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get to. Essentially, a very cool trick of the processor that allowed processors to seem faster than they were was also a major security flaw. And, well, a lot of people, kind of took it and said, well, we can't have that. And so when the security flaw has been patched, they decided that, well, not even they decided, just that when it's patched, the best way or the only way to patch it was to disable it. And when you disable it, you get performance losses because of the tricks it was doing. So that's where this article comes in. And Intel has been pretty mum on what the exact ramifications are going to be for every processor that uses this trick. And if you're wondering how far back this goes, pretty much any processor developed and made within the past 10 years is going to be affected. So if you have an Intel processor going back 10 years, this is going to affect you. So, your personal computers will be less than 10% slower after you install the Spectre Meltdown fix. And Intel has revealed in a blog post where Intel has come to the conclusion after assessing the performance changes in computers using 6th, 7th, and 8th generation Intel Core processors with Windows 10. So 6th, 7th, 8th, Windows 10. Systems equipped with the 8th generation Kaby Lake or Coffee Lake chips and solid-state drives will be the least affected, with the expected impact being less than 6%, and devices using the 7th gen Kaby Lake H mobile processors will be around 7%. So depending on your use case with your computer, you may not even notice a difference. Where based on Intel's benchmark results though, you will notice some slowdowns if you browse the web and use applications. It's safe to say that most people do. So yeah, obviously if you're using your computer for heavy applications, the slowdown will be more noticeable. And here's Intel's exact quote, saying, quote, in certain cases, some users may see a more noticeable impact. For example, users who use web applications that involve complex JavaScript operations may see a somewhat higher impact, which is up to 10%, which is what Intel is claiming is going to be the roof, is that 10%. End quote, by the way. So the tech titan has confirmed that the vulnerability existed late last year, admitting that the latest chips have security holes remote attackers could exploit. So, in addition to releasing its benchmark for the PC, Intel said it plans to share initial data on its assessment of server platforms in the next few days. It also insists that it has yet to receive any information that the flaw has been used to obtain customer data, but it's probably for the best to install the fix when you get it anyway. Now, here's the thing. A couple of things to definitely remember. The personal computer space, I think this is going to go over maybe a class action lawsuit, and maybe you'll be affected if you can prove that you purchased one of these, so folks keep your receipts. But you're probably going to get some tidbit of of money back. And this goes for anyone who purchased a computer with an Intel processor inside of it. So, Intel commands a very, very large portion of processors in laptops, computers, and, everything store-bought off the shelf. So, yeah, class action probably coming down the road. Now, the part that you should really be concerned about is if you happen to be Amazon, or if you're Google, or if you're Google, or if you are Apple. Processors, no, not Apple, Microsoft, where if you run these server farms, and they said they're going to be coming out with their assessment here in the next couple of days, well, it's going to be those large servers and these large service providers that they use these processors, but they use hundreds of them in large server farms that run applications such as Amazon Web Services, the Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure Cloud, things like that. All of those are probably going to get 10%, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if even more, because they're so processor intensive, those are going to slow down by 10 or more percent. So this is going to be a huge, huge, huge problem for these companies that, if you think about Amazon and you think about every Amazon, no, not just Amazon, but every service that uses Amazon Web Services, every one of them just got 10% slower. That's going to be a lot of affected people. Even if it seems like just a couple of seconds to everyone, that's, those seconds add up to real productivity loss, and something that, Amazon paid for a certain amount, and gosh darn it, they expected a certain amount. The good news is that this is undoubtedly going to be fixed in the new generation of processors. And, those are probably coming towards the end of the year, if not beginning of next year. those who are still in development, they got it under control. It can be fixed. This is not, something fundamental with processors, but it's going to take time, and it's only going to be on the new processors that you can buy. Intel didn't say anything about it, but AMD has been claiming for a while that Spectre and Meltdown, those security flaws, don't affect their architecture. Intel has claimed otherwise. We'll still have to see what AMD has to say about it. But the other bad part is that because it's a security flaw, not everyone is going to update their devices. And just like we saw with the National Health Services, over in the UK, when they were hacked, they weren't hacked with, bleeding edge technology. They were hacked using known security vulnerabilities. And when you have something as base as what the Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities were, even if you tell everyone you have to patch up to the latest one to stay safe, not everyone is going to do so. So this just means that every user that doesn't update their processors, either through some form of laziness or they don't want to lose their 5% performance boost, but for everyone who doesn't, they are now permanently open to some kind of vulnerability security-wise. And that's something that plagues the corporate world probably more than the personal world, but that's something that plagues the corporate world where, you don't replace hardware all that often. And this is going to be one of those things that could possibly pop up even later. So anyways, there you have it. 5 to 10% is the expected slowdown for Intel processors after this is patched. So, if you're wondering, this feels a bit slower, that's the reason. All right, let's see. So how about we do... All right. We have a couple ones, and they're pretty big stories. We have a couple stories that we should definitely cover. How about we do this one? This is a court ruling, and it may not seem like a big deal, but this could protect people out there that's, from facing prison time over end user license agreements. So this coming from the Ninth Circuit doubles down, violating a website's terms of service is not a crime. And hey, we're going to skim this. We're not going to go through every little bit of it, but this is pretty big news. Jamie Williams of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and they're saying that the Federal Court of Appeals heeded EFF's advice and rejected an attempt by Oracle to hold a company criminally liable for accessing Oracle's website in a manner that it didn't like. And the court ruled back in 2012 that merely violating a website's terms of service is not a crime under the federal computer crime statute. Okay. And they said, but some companies like Oracle turn to state computer crime statutes and to enforce their computer use preferences. And that this decision shores up the good precedent from 2012 and makes it clear, if it wasn't clear already, that violating a corporate computer use policy is not a crime. And what this really means that this doesn't stop you from breaking end user license agreement. They are still binding contracts, but it means that, if you use a product, you can't really face any kind of criminal charges outside of, that end user license agreement. Like, you can't just put into, let's say the iTunes one, because the iTunes one is infamous for being 100 pages long and no one ever reads it, but you can't put in there, if you import stolen music, then you will face 5 years jail time. And, then Apple, if you happen to do that, then Apple can't go to a judge and go, hey, look, he signed it, he agreed, he hit the OK button, he totally read it and understood it completely. Give this man 5 years because that's what we said. That kind of application of the end user license agreement no longer works. Or, it never did. It never did in the first place. But, with this holding up of or at least this rejecting of the appeal really proves that that will never happen again. And that does not mean, though, that Oracle or Apple or anyone else, if you violated their end user license agreement as a company, they could do, hey, to the full extent that they want to do. They could sue you for damages. They could sue you, or they could close your account. They could end services. They could, do any number of things, but they cannot, simply give you a fine or any other legal penalty for just something that they made up, just for something that they wrote, or you use their service in a way that they don't like. They can handle it internally, but as far as the law is concerned, that's not a law that they broke. That's your preferences. So, again, very, very, very good to hear as we, head into an area where corporations and technology are getting more and more influence, and it's hard to truly see what the impacts of these are going to be. But, actually, there's no but. This is just a good thing. And let's see. So let's end the article with a quote here from the article saying that we hope this decision influences another case pending before the court involving an attempt to use a computer crime statute to enforce terms of service and stifle competition, where the case addresses whether an automated tools to access publicly available information on the internet is a crime. And it's not, and we hope that the court agrees, and it will hear arguments sometime in March. So, yeah, there you go. It's again not one of the most attractive stories we have, but a very important story as we head into that murky area of what happens in X legal circumstances. All right, time for one, maybe two more. All right, I like this one. This one's pretty cool. If you weren't afraid of Facebook, check out something that they patented and could potentially start using. And this was published today, Kashmir Hill, and this is brought to you by Gizmodo. Facebook knows how to track you using the dust on your camera lens. Not saying that it has, just saying that it has a patent that could do just that. So Facebook has long said that it doesn't use location data to make friend suggestions, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't thought about using it. So in 2014, Facebook filed a patent application for a technique that employs smartphone data to figure out if two people might know each other. And the author, which was an engineering manager at Facebook, wrote that it was not merely possible to detect that two smartphones were in the same place at the same time, but that by comparing the accelerometers and gyroscopes readings of each phone, the data could identify when people were facing each other or walking together. That's some scary way to use that kind of data. Weird. Anyways, they said that way Facebook could suggest you a friend, would suggest you friend the person you were talking to at a bar last night, and not all the other people that you chose not to talk to. So Facebook wouldn't track you, but it would know exactly who was together and what they were doing together, and if what they were doing together would constitute friendly behavior. But as they say, Facebook has not put this technique into practice. And they have a quote here from a Facebook person saying that we're not currently using location for people you may know. Facebook has previously told us that it has only used location for friend recommendations one time during a brief test in 2015. But several of its patents show of thinking of using location Also, recommending users friend each other, for example, if they, quote, check into the social network from the same location at around the same time. Wonder what that could mean. I guess if you are at a restaurant and you open up Facebook and someone else opens up Facebook, that would, I guess, kind of give Facebook the green light to say, hey, both of you were here. You may have seen each other. Would you like to be friends? That would be weird. That'd be weird. So, in the course of a year-long investigation into how the social network makes its uncanny, accurate friend recommendations to users, Facebook has told us many things it doesn't do to ease fear about Facebook's ability to spy on its users, where it doesn't use proxies for location, such as Wi-Fi networks or IP addresses. It doesn't use Facebook views or face recognition or what you text with on WhatsApp. Most of Facebook's uncanny guesswork is a result of a healthy percentage of users simply handing over their address book, which is true. You know, that's a pretty common thing for applications to request access to. All right, so I don't think we have time to get through this entire article, unfortunately. It's pretty lengthy to put a word to it. But let's go ahead and, kind of skip towards the end, saying that as Facebook continues to grow through app acquisitions, claiming new demographics and countries as users, it will do its best to connect those new users to its existing billion-plus members. And we can't know when or if Facebook will ever actually digitally scan digital photos for dust or tap into our phones' gyrometers to more fully map the relationship between all the people in the world. But we know now, thanks to the U.S. Patent Office, that Facebook is at least thinking about the possibility. And what they're talking about, we skipped over it, but the main part of this article was a patent where it would detect very, very tiny dust particles that stick to your camera lens. And they're there, you really wouldn't notice them, but a computer absolutely would. And they're very unique. When you think about dust and how it lands on things, it's very, it's very unique in every situation. So if it just picks, a dozen different dust particles that are stuck to the camera lens, it would know, even though you have a picture and you don't know who took it or when or any of that stuff, it would know that this camera took a picture of this person and this person and this person. So the common denominator is that we recommend friends to you based on those dust particles and essentially who took a picture with what camera and when. Very, very interesting stuff, from a technology standpoint, but maybe from a security standpoint, it's a little freaky. And they also have a second patent for, they said its second patent was for something Facebook doesn't currently let you do, where you can sort its friend suggestions to you and rank them by hometown or number of mutual friends or their interest. And they said that one of its patents is for figuring out who your family members are and suggesting them as friends. And it says that it could figure that out based on external feeds, third-party databases. However, when Facebook suggested I friend a relative I didn't know I had, Facebook told me it doesn't use information from third-party or data brokers for people you may know. Essentially, Facebook, if you think that they're creepy, you're not alone. And if you think that they're getting creepier, you can be dang sure that they absolutely are. But when you have over 1 billion users, and that's only going to go up to multiple billions of users, making those connections for you is going to be one of the most important things that that Facebook can do. And they're coming up with a lot of cool ways to do it. So everyone, music means that we're done. Thank you for joining us here on Computer America. And we hope that you enjoyed today's show. We hope that you enjoyed today's guest, 33rd Parallel. You can, of course, hear it on the podcast version. And I want to thank them again for coming on. Computer technology news, all stories found in the show notes. You can check that out at your leisure if you so choose. And tomorrow, join us as we talk to the one, the only, Mr. Ralph Bond. That's right, he is a Computer America correspondent, recently retired from Autodesk, and all around just a fun guy to talk to and very knowledgeable. So everyone join us, Computer America, and yeah, catch you next time, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.